Well, we did it. Well, I did it. Well, no, not me, but it's been done. My shtick became so popular that the Tassie government even wanted to get involved. My idea was, don't come to Tassie. Stay where you are. I'll experience the glory that is the Tasmanian wilderness. I'll film it, I'll put it on YouTube, that way you don't need to come here. So Tassie's closed its borders. And its national parks. Fortunately, I've got some footage banked up because I've not been the most diligent in uploading videos. Anyhow, we pick up the adventure today from Queenstown. This is the road heading west from Queenstown through to Strawn. To head west, you need to head north a little bit, like a kilometre or two, before hanging a left here to head straight through to Strawn. You can go the other way, but it takes you via Zion and adds about 40-50 clicks to the track, which is 40 or 50 clicks that you would be stuck behind a van like that one. So don't do that. Instead, just go this way. Enjoy life. I mean, even if you are stuck behind a van, enjoy life, nonetheless. I really appreciate the scenery through here. It's not particularly flat, but it's not mountainous. You can get a good view of most of what's around. Because there's a mountain range through the centre of Tasmania, and all of the weather generally comes from the west, it's a lot wetter through here. So you can often have this absolutely gorgeous, rugged landscape with beacons of light strewn through the dark and ominous clouds. It can be quite glorious. You wouldn't know it from this camera. With roads like this, there's a lot of blind corners, so it's very difficult to overtake. The overtaking lanes are non-existent. In fact, the broken white lines are quite a rarity. When you're confident on the road and you know your vehicle's ability, it can be quite the arduous trip when you're stuck behind someone who decides to take the corners at half the recommended speeds. Finally, I can overtake these two cars, but it's just as we get into Strawn. This is Strawn. This is the entry to Strawn. Come down a cool little hill. There's a cute cafe on the right, and if you're going World Heritage cruises, that's straight over the way. I'm going through the Esplanade. Through the summer, this is a bustling community of tourists. Through the winter, I think someone might have visited once. Hogarth Falls is super easy to find. Just continue along this road, the main waterfront road, until you see the People's Park sign, or Hogarth Park, Hogarth Falls Park, Hogarth, whatever it's called. You'll see the sign. Surprise, there it is. If you need to go to the toilet, there are toilets here. If you want to have a barbie, there's barbecues here. But for now, the only thing that's here is, well, me and a couple of tourists. The thing about motorcycle helmets is they're an echo chamber for noise. You know the wind noise when you've got your car windows open at 100 kilometers an hour. That is amplified on a motorbike. Fortunately, these noise-cancelling headphones do quite a good job at getting rid of a lot of the wind noise. Not all of it. I wouldn't wear them to a track day, for example, but they're pretty good. You can still hear a lot of what's happening, but they get rid of a lot of what's damaging. Here I am just getting prepared for the walk ahead. I'll need my phone to take some cool ass pictures, I'll need the camera that's now recording, and I won't need my jacket. But I'd rather not leave anything of value here. It's probably safe, but why risk it? Here we go. The track to Hogarth Falls. This is quite a cool walk. Very easy, very flat. I'll talk more about that soon. Similarly, this is one of the walks that it's worth actually reading the signs on the side of the path. More on that as we get to them. One of the first things that you'll notice through here is how many ferns there are. This walk goes alongside water, and it goes up to a waterfall. It is very wet through here. The cool thing about these signs is not only do they point out what you're seeing, they have sketches from the local primary school. They got the kids to draw a black gum tree, for example. And that was then put on these signs along this boardwalk. Which way to go? Well, that's the end of the line. Not that way. The smell here isn't dank. A lot of the wetter walks smell like stagnant water. You don't get that here. There's a bit of that foresty dankness, but a lot of it is, especially during the drier summer, quite pleasing.
Caution. Drop bears. Coming out of the trees, also bridge slippery when wet. You missed it. There was a drop bear up there.
I don't often say this, but pay attention to what you're walking on. Look at the track. You don't need to give it too much attention, just consider it here. And then consider it later on. Also, pay attention to what's around you. Don't just look. Stop, listen, smell. Okay, now look at the track. Look at how thin this track is. And then they have a railing on the side that would restrict a lot from getting up there. The reason I say to look at the actual track is it looks like a wheelchair could make it most of the way up. 7/8 of the way. But then it gets rough and it narrows. The point of this walk is not simply to be amongst the black gums nor the sassafras trees. It's not simply to be amongst the ferns. Don't get me wrong, that's cool. The point is to make it to the actual waterfall and observe the beauty that is this place. The journey is cool, but the waterfall is why a tourist would come here. And that opportunity to see this is restricted by the final part of this path. It's a beaut little place. I like it. Alright, quick little trek back. Slightly downhill, so it's easy. But as I said, check out these signs. Sassafras. Sure, it's got the cool little picture from the primary school kid, but did you know that the early settlers used to use sassafras bark and sassafras leaves to make a beer? I didn't. And since then I've researched it a little bit. It looks like it's a 1 or 2% mildly bubbly ginger beer style thing. And the sign here encourages you to pluck a leaf if you can see one and chomp on it a little bit. I was intrigued. So you better believe I did that. Sassafras has a weird taste. I could imagine if it had grown in the subcontinent, it would be quite a dominant flavour in a lot of curries. The leaf tastes somewhat peppery, a bit like cumin, and then a subtle minty tang to it. From the recipes that I've since found, it looks like it's had a similar use to ginger in ginger beer, except this is sassafras. You never know what you're going to find when you read the signs. I must have just rolled a natural 20 on an investigation check. The end of the path. Nailed it. Next, I've got some footage from Fortescue. I've got some footage from the northwest coast. I'll begin to upload that. Also, between going west and going to these other places, I acquired this Zoom H5 handy recorder. And I've recorded the sounds of the environment there, which means there will be more crystal clear sounds of nature to the next videos. Until then.